Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving deep into the mud and reeds of ancient literature to uncover a hidden gem, a story so absurd, so hilarious, it has been called the world's very first parody. Forget what you know about epic battles and heroic sagas. We're talking about the Batrachomyomachia, or as it's more catchily known, the Battle of the Frogs and the Mice. That's right. Long before satirical news shows or parody movies, an anonymous ancient Greek poet, sometimes mistaken for Homer himself, decided to take the epic style of the Iliad and apply it to, well, a squabble between some rodents and amphibians. This isn't just a quirky little fable, it's a masterful piece of satire that pokes fun at the grandiosity of war, the pettiness of gods, and the very idea of epic heroes. So grab your popcorn and let's explore how a tiny misunderstanding between a mouse and a frog escalated into a full-blown, divinely intervened, ridiculously epic war. Our story begins with a thirsty mouse named Sycarpax, which translates to crumb snatcher. Classic mouse name, right? After feasting royally in a farmer's pantry, he scampers down to the edge of a pond for a drink. It's there he meets our other protagonist, Physignathus, the Frog King, whose name means puff cheeks. Seeing the refined-looking mouse, Puff Cheeks strikes up a conversation. "Greetings, stranger. Who are you, and from what noble lineage do you hail? If you are worthy, I shall welcome you to my home and bestow upon you great gifts." You can already see the parody, can't you? This is exactly how heroes like Odysseus or Achilles introduce themselves in the Homeric epics. Puff Cheeks is puffing up his chest, acting like a mighty king greeting a foreign dignitary. Crumb Snatcher, not one to be outdone, replies with his own grand tale. He boasts of his fearsome nature, claiming he's not scared of humans, weasels, or traps. He describes the lavish life of a mouse, feasting on cheese, honey cakes, and all sorts of human delicacies. It's a mouse's dream life, and he paints it with the same heroic color that a warrior would use to describe his battle prowess. Impressed, or perhaps just amused, King Puff Cheeks offers Crumb Snatcher a ride across the pond to his royal palace. "Hop on my back," he says, "and hold on tight." Crumb Snatcher, who has never swum before, nervously agrees. At first, the journey is delightful. He marvels at the lily pads and the watery kingdom unfolding before him. But then, disaster strikes. A terrifying water snake, a hydra, rears its head from the depths. In a blind panic, Puff Cheeks the Frog King completely forgets about his tiny passenger. He dives deep into the water to escape the snake, leaving poor Crumb Snatcher floundering on the surface. The terrified mouse struggles, cries out, and curses the frog's betrayal. "You will not escape the vengeance of the mice," he gurgles, before sinking beneath the waves to his tragic, watery end. It's a dramatic death scene worthy of any Greek tragedy, only it's a mouse. The sheer absurdity is the whole point. The poet is taking a grand, tragic trope and shrinking it down to a ridiculous scale. But the story doesn't end there. Another mouse, Lichipanax, or Plate Licker, witnesses the whole thing from the shore. He scurries back to the Mouse Kingdom and reports the murder of Prince Crumb Snatcher. The mouse assembly is thrown into an uproar. Crumb Snatcher's father, the Mouse King Troxartes, or Bread Gnawer, is consumed with grief and rage. He delivers a passionate, thundering speech, calling for war against the treacherous frogs. "They have slain our prince. We must avenge him. To arms, my fellow mice, to arms!" This is where the satire really kicks into high gear. The mice don't just grab sticks and stones. Oh no, this is an epic war. They arm themselves like true Homeric heroes. They craft tiny helmets from nutshells, fashion breastplates from the skin of a flayed weasel, make spears from long needles, and use lamp lids as shields. The poem spends a great deal of time describing this arming sequence in glorious, heroic detail, directly mimicking the famous scene of Achilles putting on his divine armor in the Iliad. The image of a tiny mouse army decked out in beans and nutshells preparing for glorious battle is just comedy gold. Meanwhile, back in the pond, the frogs are clueless. King Puffcheeks surfaces, thinking he's had a narrow escape, with no idea what has transpired. When a messenger from the mice arrives, declaring war and accusing him of murder, Puffcheeks is completely baffled. He denies everything, but the mice are having none of it. And so, the battle lines are drawn. On one side, the land-dwelling, nut-helmeted mouse infantry. On the other, the aquatic, spear-wielding frog hoplites. The Batrachomyomachia, the great frog-mouse war, is about to begin. Now, no epic battle is complete without the involvement of the gods. And in this parody, the gods on Mount Olympus are watching the whole ridiculous affair with great amusement. Zeus, the king of the gods, calls an assembly. He points to the tiny armies below and asks the other gods which side they will support. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare, surprisingly declares she won't help the mice. Why? Because they've been a total nuisance, chewing through her sacred robes and nibbling on the offerings in her temples. It's a petty, all-too-human reason for a goddess, which is part of the joke. Ares, the god of war, suggests he might intervene, but Zeus wisely tells everyone to just stay out of it and enjoy the show. He knows that mortal, or in this case animal, affairs are best left to their own devices. The battle commences, and it is described with all the blood, gore, and heroic valor of the Trojan War. Names are named, heroic deeds are done, and mighty warriors fall. A frog named Crambophagus, cabbage eater, is speared through the liver by the mouse Lycanor, liquor. The mouse Embasakitros, pot creeper, drags a wounded frog by the foot from the battlefield. The poet uses epic language to describe these brutal, tiny deaths. Frogs are speared in the belly, mice are dragged into the pond and drowned. It's a whirlwind of chaos and violence, a perfect mirror of the Iliad's famous battle scenes, but with an army of squeaking, hopping combatants. For a moment, the tide of battle turns in favor of the mice. A particularly heroic mouse, Meridarpax, or Scrap Snatcher, proves to be an unstoppable force. He's like the Achilles of the mouse world, tearing through the frog ranks and vowing to exterminate their entire race. The frogs are in a full-blown panic. Their army is collapsing. Seeing the impending genocide of the frogs, Zeus is finally moved to intervene. But how? Sending a lightning bolt would be overkill, wiping out both armies instantly. So Zeus conceives a truly bizarre plan. He decides to send in a new army, a force so strange and terrifying that it will stop the war in its tracks. He summons an army of crabs. Yes, you heard me correctly, crabs. The poem describes them as crooked-clawed, sideways walking, hard-shelled, broad-backed, and bony. This divine intervention is the ultimate punchline. Instead of a majestic eagle or a fearsome warrior god, the grand finale is an army of scuttling crustaceans. The crabs march onto the battlefield and create absolute chaos. They snip off the tails, paws, and heads of the mice with their powerful claws. The mice's needle spears are useless against their hard shells. Terrified and completely routed by this bizarre armored force, the mice drop their nutshell helmets and bean pod shields and flee for their holes. The war, which had begun with such high-minded speeches and heroic arming, ends in a comical, panicked retreat. And so, as the sun set on the single day of fighting, the great battle of the frogs and the mice came to an end. So what's the point of all this? The Batrachomyomachia is a brilliant work of satire. By applying the loftiest style of epic poetry to the silliest possible subject, the author makes a powerful statement. It trivializes the very things the Iliad holds sacred: heroic glory, divine intervention, and the supposed nobility of war. It suggests that the grand conflicts of humans, the Trojan Wars of our own world, might just be as petty and absurd as a fight between frogs and mice when viewed from a cosmic or even just a different perspective. The poem forces us to ask, Are the reasons for our own wars any less ridiculous than a frog accidentally drowning a mouse? Is the pride of our leaders any different from the puffed-up chest of a frog king or the vengeful rage of a mouse king? It's a timeless lesson wrapped in a hilarious and frankly adorable package. It shows that even thousands of years ago, people were able to step back, look at the grand narratives of their culture, and have a good laugh at them. And that's the story of the Battle of the Frogs and the Mice, the ancient world's most epic and most ridiculous parody. It's a testament to the fact that comedy and satire have always been powerful tools for cutting heroes, gods, and wars down to size. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into a forgotten classic. What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into weird history and literature, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures. We'll see you in the next video.